In this episode of Clubhouse Chronicles, we will be taking a deep dive into the Exocticals discussion about the Bumble controversy and the fear of the government forcing women back into marriage. If you like this content that is being presented, please hit the like button, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. The early success of this channel could not happen without you, the viewer.
Ladies, I got your messages about finishing the tea from Ion's room. I don't know what happened, but I wanted to let you in on some insights so you can kind of because y'all had some really great questions today, and I happen to have all the answers and the details that you were looking for. So I want to make sure you know this information so you could prepare yourself for what's about to come, because you're not going crazy. This is just what you're seeing with the Bumble ads, and even just like white men kind of calling black men out on their shit. It's just scratching the surface to something that might even be a little bit more sinister. And also, I think I'll be able to give you some theories on why these things are happening. What's the end goal for men in terms of this? Let's talk about Whitney Wolfe Herd. Whitney Wolfe Herd is the founder of Bumble. As I told you before, she co-founded Tinder with two gentlemen that I believe she met when she was at the startup Cardify. And that's Sean Rad and Chris Golzinski. So when she co-founded it, she became the vice president of marketing for Tinder. She started getting sexually harassed there and then basically ousted. So then that's when she founded Bumble. And the whole premise behind Bumble is that women make the first move. And this is to combat sexual harassment, sexual, inappropriateness, etc. by men on these apps. So, during this time, Whitney partnered up with an investor called Andrei Andreev. He is a Russian investor. He helped found Badoo, which is kind of like the UK version of Tinder. Child, he was acting a plumb fool in them offices, honey. Let me tell you. Had sex parties in them offices, had women co-workers watching men getting their you-know-whats licked off, all types of crazy shit. Whitney ended up defending him. So hold on to that information, because that's very important, because that's going to signify why the culture, because if you remember back in the day when Bumble first started, Whitney was one of the heads of the whole girl boss era. It was her, Sophia Amorosa, which is the founder of Girl Boss, and a few other founders who were the big girls in tech, the big girls in business. Huge shocker that, she would be in partnership with this dude and then turn around and defend him for his foolishness, given the whole purpose behind Bumble. Well, late last year, Whitney finally got ousted. Now, it could be because she got married, or, they finally found a reason to kind of force her out after that whole Andreev situation. She did get married in 2017, so it's been a little while, but still, it's been a number of problems with her, presenting one image to the front, another image in the back, an image that's a little femme-selly. Get me? Now that there is a new CEO, a Brazilian lady, and her name is, what is her name again? Lydiane Jones. Lydiane is from Sao Paulo, big tech executive, and she used to be the former CEO of Slack. This is going to be a huge problem because we don't know this lady from a can of worms. We don't know the direction that she's going to take the app. Actually, no, we do know the direction because new things have been added to the app that are very concerning. So before with Bumble, it used to be that women had to make the first contact in order for men to be able to communicate with that woman. If the woman, decides she no longer wants to communicate with him, one click and he can no longer contact her. The reason why there's a whole big marketing push is because Bumble is undergoing a rebrand. And that's where the billboard is coming from. And that feature will no longer exist. Now men and women can communicate equally. So basically Bumble has become Tinder all over again. And a lot of the protections that were created for Bumble to protect women are now gone. Including now they're introducing an AI dating feature, hella problematic because now you no longer have control over who you get to communicate with. The computer's basically telling you who's your best match, which is really fucking weird. So why is all this very problematic, and what does this specifically have to do with Black women? All right, so you didn't hear this tea from me, but you heard it from me, okay? Bumble is not the only site that is going on a rebrand. This is an exclusive. There's another website that many of us have known and loved for decades. It's a dating site, one of the oldies, that was, its whole premise was to connect very affluent men to young women who are in need. They are rebranding as well in order to be more inclusive to men of all incomes, professional men at least, but maybe not at that particular price point. So the premiums are going down, which means you could be getting your fair share of riffraffs on there. And that's kind of like the direction that a lot of these dating apps are going in. Instead of offering protections to women, they're primarily focusing on men, and men, of all calibers having better and more access to women. So, I don't know if you all have been to Miami lately, but if you've noticed, there are no clubs, there's no nightlife, everything is high rises, there are lots of spaces for children. There's a big push for family things. I don't know what it's like in other cities, but a lot of the spaces where young professionals can kind of hang out and connect are done away with. And I believe that's because they're trying to keep your ass in the house. A lot of people think that the abortion ban is really about getting more babies out there. Not necessarily. Here's my theory, because I had to have a wake-up call myself. If you really pay attention to what these politicians are saying and what these conservatives are saying, they're really kind of cracking the whip on men and men's behavior. I've seen a lot of talk, and I kind of mentioned this in Ion's room, there's been a lot of talk directed particularly at Black men about, basically not being deadbeats and growing up and being real men. I also hear a lot of politicians being flat out and calling out Black men. And Couture recently, got her hand slapped for saying that, Black men leave the home. Their children are fatherless and the fathers aren't there, and that's the reason for all the problems in the community. It's been a lot of honing in on Black men's behavior, or, these Peter Pan men, these men who don't want to grow up and assume responsibility. My personal belief is that there was never really the focus on having the children. The children are kind of tertiary, still important, but tertiary. The focus is on getting the men paired up, married off, so that they have responsibility and they can get back to work. Hold on before you think I'm crazy. Let me explain. Men have been telling us for quite some time that men center themselves and their identities around women. Men are always quick to say things like, well, if, we didn't have women, we wouldn't even take a bath. We wouldn't even shave ourselves. We wouldn't do anything with our lives. I think they've kind of proved that by the way men are no longer in higher learning, men are no longer in the workforce, particularly professional workforce, and we see the high rates of crime. I think the goal is still to make the babies but to get men paired off, married off, so that they will actually do something with their lives. Because when men have responsibilities, like kids and stuff, the expectation, I guess, from society has always been, oh, you're going to take care of those kids. You're going to be a father to those children. You're going to support those kids. How are you going to do that? You need a job. Right now, the workforce is globally is predominantly women and women led. And I've noticed that a lot of these big girl boss CEOs, they have like gotten married and just like either been ousted from these companies or have taken a step back to be, trad wives, mothers. It's all this focus on mothers and motherhood and being a trad wife and being a mom or being a happy single divorcee and single mom and all this stuff. I feel like that's why you're seeing that mega aggressive push from these dating apps towards black women, because black women are indeed, professing that they're fighting back against this more so than I would say white women. White women have just completely acquiesced. I'm even seeing like content online where, fake trad wives, well, not fake trad wives, they're real trad wives, but like they're pretending like they were feminists before and feminist lesbians and I wore pussy hats and now happy housewife and I love my husband and that's the greatest gift that's ever happened to me and I love my children and blah blah blah. A whole lot of propaganda. Now, how does that lead to that Bumble billboard ad? Great question. I did some research earlier this morning. Now, I know that Bumble has always been big on DEI and has promoted black women into higher positions. One of those black women is the director of growth, a Nigerian lady. I believe that she was the one who approved that ad. And based off the language of the ad, like saying things like full well, I knew immediately that was like a black person had to have written that. But then like I noticed on LinkedIn people were not saying any names but like defending the work and being like, well, I don't want to hear y'all complaining about it, we have to give grace, blah blah blah. So when black people start defending some bullshit, I know we had something to do with it. I think that I think we're seeing like the rise of the lonely corporate black femcel. She's a little bit more dangerous than, the big back mammy, because now she has a lot of power and privilege. She can influence ideas and force the whole black love narrative, everybody get married because it looks good for the race narrative, onto whoever through these mega platforms, mega companies. So that's just my theory. And what I was trying to say the other day, I think we should all kind of look out. You're going to see a lot more aggressive marketing towards black women from dating apps and just anything that has to do with families, babies, whatever. You're going to see them pushing heavy, hard weddings, all of it. And it isn't going to necessarily be non-black people that are doing it. It's actually going to be coming from our own community, because there are a lot of femcels and incels in business and tech right now, like an insane amount. If you're in those industries, batten down the hatches, because girl, they might be trying to force you out too. Be careful what you discuss. You can keep your job. But yeah, like in the coming years, especially either closer to the election or after the election, we're going to see some crazy shit in terms of from government officials, politicians, more government initiatives being pushed to get, like, Pink Pill wasn't wrong when she was talking about, back in the day they were rewarding the community or rewarding Americans for having families. I think you're going to see that coming back. But I think it's going to be heavily targeted towards Black women, sadly. So I hope this helps. I hope this answers a lot of the questions that were asked on stage. If you have any more questions, you know I always got the inside tea. Happy to share. Toodles. You know your thoughts. I'm going to post the link about the marriage boom that's been going on. But this is also another indicator that they are on our fucking ass. Because I think you guys ask, well, why aren't they just asking men to behave better so that women would be interested in them? And other countries, like I said, in the UK, I think after the incident happened with the teacher and then the stabbing in Croydon, the UK has kind of like addressed the matter of the incels. The US is not, they're not doing that. They figured, let's just get these men some women, get them some babies, let them be happy. They're not taking a hard stance on the violence or anything that's going on with the women because, quite frankly, a lot of our politicians are incels. And you're going to see that as election day comes up or even post-election day, depending on who gets elected. Trump. But another key indicator are the housing prices are dropping. Child, let me tell you. So y'all remember from like about 2015 to about 2022, right before the layoffs, housing in New York City was insane. It was fucking insane, especially during the pandemic. Well, you know, New York City lost a lot of its young professional residents. So it's doing everything it can to bring them back. But as you know, we're in a massive recession, if not a depression. Everybody's out of work. The layoffs were just coming hot and heavy. So how do you get people to be able to afford anything, let alone be able to afford a family when they come back? And they have to take these jobs at a much lower salary. I recently did a search. Child, Brooklyn is actually one of the most affordable boroughs right now. It's crazy. Those of y'all who are familiar with New York and were raised in New York in the 80s and the 90s, I know y'all know about Sugar Hill, aka Crackville. When I saw the housing prices and how much they grew in Sugar Hill, I had to call my mom and be like, Ma, look at this shit. Is this the same Sugar Hill that I knew about? And she was like, yeah, that is Sugar Hill. Astronomical prices up there. My guess is they're gentrifying places that are a little bit closer to the city where our main hubs where people work to draw them in. But I'm noticing like back in the day when you used to have like all these fancy amenities for young professionals, state-of-the-art gyms and, you know, fancy bars downstairs, I'm noticing they're done with that. Same shit with Miami. It's all residential areas. They're now putting in more shops, more things for families. I'm guessing that's what they're trying to do. I truly believe that our government is trying to force us into marriage and kids at this point, but while not addressing the issue of men's behavior. So, hence why certain areas are cheaper, such as Brooklyn, which is kind of thought of as being like the young, hip place for young hipster professionals, and certain areas, the cost of housing is going up. I noticed that Queens, which Queens has always been in the suburbs and it's always been a little bit more on the expensive side, but I noticed that the housing rates for Queens is going up crazy now. You really ain't getting shit in Queens unless you got about $700K in the bank, or you can get a $700K loan. Mortgage. So that's my theory. Everything is going to be family focused going forth. Batten down the hatches, my single ladies. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Clarify why I feel like more of the financial center or the business hubs of these cities are going to go up in prices is because there are going to be jobs there, which are going to encourage you to get families, and then dual incomes could afford these housing costs. But I also think that as families start to grow, they're going to level them out a little bit more. So I don't think Pink Pill was entirely off the mark. I think she had some really good points on that. It's just general. The country's not going to deal with the men and their behavior. Not outright, I don't think. but they're going to make it a little bit easier, a little bit more affordable, a little bit more valuable for people to pair up, if that makes sense. Doing that to motivate men to basically be men, because they need men out here working again. They need new fresh blood too, so they need more children, because schools are shutting down around the country. Universities and second and pre-secondary school, like high school, middle schools, elementary schools, etc. But they definitely need more men out here doing things that men are supposed to be doing. Forget the most important part. So a big part of the reason why they're trying to oust or push out these women out of like the girl boss, tech girlies, image is because men have been complaining for almost 10 years now, since about 2015, that women have taken over and dominated the workforce. There's no place for men. We can't get jobs. The government has been listening. Businesses have been listening. And like I said, tech has gone completely incelly, femcelly. So I believe that the reason why you're seeing all these women CEOs kind of either get in line or get shoved out is because the men want to take over those jobs. I've seen so many women who are in C-suite positions, big executive positions, get replaced by men recently. And I think it's because the government is really trying to push for this, government and big business, big corporate, is trying to push for this idea of women should be in the home, raising the babies, and men should do what they do, which is protect and provide. Except that's not really the type of men that we have in America. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Again, ladies, batten down the hatches.
Lily, who do they think is going to settle down with these black men if they haven't checked their behavior? That's crazy thinking, in my opinion.
Men don't really think. And these men don't see themselves as the problem or the issue. Like, how they justify it in their mind, like the violence is, well, those are outliers, or you should have chose better. They genuinely do believe that. I think that, they may have some fear of those men, but they kind of feel like, oh, these men will just fall into line. They'll figure it out once they get women and families. It's really bizarre, but just based off the rhetoric that I've been seeing, I don't think our safety is of any concern. I think they feel like, we'll just whip them into shape. They'll just automatically know what to do as a man once, they get a girl.
I don't think it's going to happen the way they think it's going to happen, because women are getting fed up. Women are not going to continue to mule for these men and be the breadwinners like they are now. There's a survey out that black women are leading the households again. So that little, I guess they're going to have to do something better than that. Because I don't see that plan working out for them.
Actually not working out for them as at all. At most, they're getting the marriages, but the marriages don't seem to be lasting longer than 2 years, which is wild to me. But I don't think that's going to stop them. And I don't think it's even going to work, because I don't know if you all remember, recently Killer Mike did an interview with the Kennedy candidate that's running for president as an independent, where he's like begging the government to stop child support because he claims it's racist. And he was like, no. No, I'm not ending child support. You should support your kids, and you should stay with the woman that you have a child with, so that you don't have to deal with these problems. So it's like, as they keep begging and thinking and like trying to promote this message that it's the women, the rest of society is holding their feet to the fire and saying, no, it's really you. It's really, really, really you. But I don't think that's going to stop them from trying. I think what will stop them is when women of all races just completely leave them alone. But we know that's not going to happen. That's not it. White women are way too insecure, way too dick obsessed, way too desperate for validation to ever do anything like that. But I think, on the government side, they're just hoping that, men get up and be men because they have families. That didn't work out too well. It's never worked out too well in the black community, black or Latino communities. But, the government doesn't want to touch it. They don't want to really get into the weeds of the violence against women like other countries are maybe doing, unfortunately. It is still, to me, the women who are participating in this propaganda. I'm literally arguing with some tradwives right now, like, please keep your complaints off the internet when this blows up in your face, because they're being very honest and transparent and saying, like, they want to get married because they don't want to work, because they don't want to deal with men, particularly white men, in the workplace. Which, foolishness. It's you, honey, who made the workplace hell for everybody else. But so what? I don't see how this plan is going to work, because the marriages aren't even lasting. But I can only give y'all what I know to be true, or what I can foresee happening, which is a whole disaster of problems.
Wow!